In this video, we're talking about the Firestaff and Void Gauntlet build, and truthfully, it's one of the builds that I think you can get some of the highest DPS in the game without putting yourself into too much danger when it comes to PvE, and there's a really easy way to parlay this directly in to a PvP build. Let's get into this video. Let me show you my build, a couple of options, and yeah, let's get into this. So down below there are timestamps. Make sure you click around to make sure you find what you're looking for. But we are going to be doing the attributes. We're going to talk about weapons. We're going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about bonuses, buffs, everything you can imagine in this guide. So this might be a little bit long, and I have plenty of gameplay from the Gorgon raid, actually playing both of the builds that I'm highlighting today and talking about some of the alternatives. So let's get into what we have. So we're currently in our light Firestaff DPS build right here. I'm going to walk through each armor piece as well as weapon piece and explain why I've chose it, why it might not be the best in slot, and what are some options that you can put there instead. Just know that some of these items, like I was just hovering over this earring, do come from the raid. That being said, you do not have to have these items from the raid to still do really awesome DPS. One item or two items in particular will make them higher, but this still is a very viable build, and I started Firestaff without doing it and felt very powerful, and it's only gotten better as I've continued. So the star of the show is the Firestaff, and yes, this one does come from the raid. I will show you alternatives and suggestions on what you should look for if you want to have even more DPS than sometimes is what I can put out from this. So let's keep going and let's talk about that. So if you can get this Firestaff from the raid, or if you have the Gorgon tokens, the Hoplite Firestaff is absolutely, it is BIS, and that's not even a question. It is best in slot Firestaff, and I'll explain why. Number one, the perk that comes with it that's really cool is Disdained Infliction, and you can put this on other weapons in the game. You can actually buy it, and it is a weapon that you can slot, or a actual perk you can slot, depending on if you have the option on weapons. So if you can and you do dots, this is worth trying to put on your weapon. And if you can put this on a Firestaff, it would be beneficial for you to put this on a Firestaff if you can't run Gorgon. The perk is this: potency of outgoing damage over times are increased by 15%. Hitting a target inflicted by your dots will extend the duration of them by 5%, and there's a 1 second cooldown. So every second you're continuing to stack 5%, and if you're continuing to hit, especially with Firestaff, stacking smolders, and then also with Life Taker, what we're going to talk about, it just continues to stack them, which is, it's still crazy how much damage you can get just on ticks. It's like 2k, almost 3k damage a second just on tick damage. But the big part of this is potency of them are increased by 15%, so you're getting even more damage out of your dots. The other perk that comes stock on the Hoplite Firestaff is the Keenly Jagged perk, which is what a lot of these Hoplite weapons come with, is Disdained Infliction and Keenly Jagged. And this is just if you get a critical hit, you basically put bleed on them. You also can choose the third perk. For me, I chose Flame Attunement. Now, a lot of you people noticing that I have Elemental Band will be upset that I didn't choose a different attunement like Void or any of those other ones. But I'm thinking long-term, knowing that the Elemental Band will probably be patched soon. By the way, let me know if you want a video on why Elemental Band is stupid broken right now, but I think it'll be patched soon, and a lot of people will be changing out ring glasses and attunements anyway. I don't want to waste the money, so I'm going to run Flame Attunement knowing that I want that in the future. So every attack, you're able to do 14% extra weapon damage as fire with a 1.5 second cooldown. There's nothing wrong with that. For the Rune Glass, I dodge a lot, so I want the solid 10% damage, 9% damage from the Opal. So I'm using Opal, and I'm actually doing one with a Boreal Gambit. So I'm actually hitting off with poison. I am technically triggering the Elemental Band, and I'm abusing it a little bit with this. But some people will still say, well, why don't you use a Sapphire with another thing so you get two elements with that? And that's totally true. I'm not fully using how broken the Elemental Band is. Please tell me if you want a video on how to use it and have fun with it right now, but I hope they patch it. I think it's stupid. For the offhand, it is the same Life Taker that I've used in several videos now. Life Stealing, Refreshing Move, and Refreshing Move and Putrefying Scream is the perk that I added to this. I think that it is absolutely insane. I think you can add Disdained Infliction on your Life Taker, if I'm being honest, but I don't think it's as beneficial as Putrefying Scream. Getting that disease, 44% disease, that's stupid awesome. So I would encourage you to keep this one on here, especially for mutations, for PvP. I think it's great. But the main reason we're using Life Taker is because it adds 3 more dots that we can go ahead and have a whole bunch of opportunity to boost and keep up. And it just adds to the damage potential of this build. Not only that, you're actually adding rend every time you hit with it. So you're getting the 30% rend, plus you're getting the dots. It's a no-brainer. I almost never switch over to the Life Taker unless I'm using specific abilities to boost the damage on my Fire Staff. And then for the Heart Rune, this one's one you can kind of change out depending on what your situation is. If you're on Typhon, you want Vines. You know, if you're in PvP, you might want Vile or Bile Bomb, or you might want Detonate, whatever the case. This just depends on what you're kind of doing. Personally, I like the Stalwart Heart Rune of Stone Form at all times. As much as I can, unless I need to use something else, just so I can get that like 5,000 health by just popping it. But not only that, getting the extra Fortify as well as the CC immunity, I think is really nice. If you're wanting a Heart Rune that you can just slap on and not think about getting every one of them done, and you want one for everything, this is the one you go for. Let's go through jewelry. Again, these are just jewelry pieces. These came from the raid, and I love the raid, by the way. It is difficult, and I probably should make a whole video guide of just common sense. This is what you should use for the raid, and not be that person that just goes into chat and say X Gorg 720 DPS, and you're a person with like no good protection perks, and all you have is a PvP set, and you go in there and think you're the most awesome player. And you die all the time because you don't understand. You don't have an amulet to protect you. It's just, please stop being that DPS player who thinks they're so cool just because they life of a healer, man. Anyway, so Hoplite Amulet, this one just has divine health as well as unimpeded. This is the perk from the raid. This just stops slows. Not really useful in a lot of places, but I love it because it is a 725 piece that has health and divine. I do have one that has intelligence, which is health, divine, as well as, I can't remember what the other perk is. I think it's refreshing, health, divine, and refreshing. That's an intelligence one, but this one's magnify, and I use this one on all of my sets basically, so that's why I keep it here. But really, you could use anything that's health and divine. You can totally pick up some different perks here that would be more beneficial as a DPS. Totally agree. However, more health is never a bad thing, and divine, you getting health back, always a good thing. Just saying. For the ring, we are using Elemental Band, and this comes from the raid. It comes from the final boss. It comes from Broodmother Medusa, and you don't have to have this. You can honestly use any ring that you want in the game. So you can get one from the kiln that's pretty cool. I think it gets burning as well as hardy or something like that. Really nice, but you can also go Azoth Crystal Ring to get these same two perks, which is hardy and leeching. But Elemental Band comes with Keen Awareness, hardy, and then I put leeching on here because I want some kind of self-sustain. I think it's important for you to be able to do some kind of healing on your own and not rely on a healer. And if I can do that with some leeching, that's good. There's totally better perks to pick here, if I'm being honest. But for me, I think that not being a dead DPS is better than being top DPS. Because even top DPS running 5 con, oh my god, I can survive with 5 or 25 con. God, I hate hearing that. It just, every time I just see them die and they got like 8,000 health killed them. In my mind, I'm like, you could have avoided that so easily. Anyway, I think leechings are a great way to kind of keep a little bit of self-sustain on you. But Elemental Band is the artifact jewelry we're using because it says when you hit a target with elemental damage attack, you gain 4% power for 6 seconds. So this fire staff shoots fire. I should be able to get 4% in power for 6 seconds off of fire. But it is broken right now because it does trigger on dots and attunements. So you technically could stack 16% damage easily with one shot. That's how people are doing it right now. So while the Elemental Band is really cool, I think it's going to get nerfed soon. And I wouldn't try to gear all of your stuff just because of Elemental Band. I would hope that sometime in the near future, New World, please nerf this. Even as someone who uses it and abuses it, please nerf this and fix it. It's stupid in PvP. PvE, it's nice. Everything dies really quick. But this is stupid. Please get rid of it. And then for the earring, again, I think you can pick any perks here you really want. I think that Refreshing Toast is one of those that I think should be on every single earring. Cooldowns for all consumables are 10% faster. I think that's important. But you could do Empowering Toast, Fortifying Toast. I chose Healthy Toast because once you drink a mana pot, you get 16% of your health back. Refreshing, you could put something else here, but this does add to my 4/4, which is nice. All right, let's move into armor. This is the Heavy Head, And I'm doing a light build with Featherweight, by the way. So heavy head, heavy boots, light pants, light gloves, and you can kind of swap out the heavy piece with gloves and then make light somewhere else on the head or the boots. So just know that's the case. It's, for me, it's heavy, light, 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 heavy, with the Featherweight being a free weight basically. So anyway, for the heavy head, I wanted a weapon perk, and could I totally roll this onto like the Frigid Dawn? Yes, totally. And I will do that eventually, but it is expensive. 3 seals plus a matrix, and I don't think I have like 5,000 gold right now because I'm leveling skills right now. Anyway, so I bought this piece right here off of the trading post. I wanted Empowering Meteor Shower. When Meteor Shower hits, gain 2.1% in power for 6 seconds. That doesn't sound that great, but it maxes 10 stacks. So here's a 20% in power just off of getting Meteor Shower hits on enemies. And this is really easy to get up there, honestly. So really good way to stack a bunch of empower damage onto your character just using this specific perk. And I wish I had Enchanted Ward. I could probably just keep this piece. However, I don't. So I would like to put back on a Frigid Dawn piece and keep this perk because I think it is really good. For the artifact armor, we are doing a Featherweight, and basically I've added health on here. I think you could totally add on like fire harnessing or anything else and make this more beneficial to this build specifically. Even a weapon perk would be very beneficial. However, I use Featherweight in a lot of builds, including my healing build, and that would not benefit it. Health does, so I go with the perk that actually helps a lot of my builds, not just one. So could I have more damage? Totally, but this is what I choose to do. For the gloves, I got lucky from a PvP drop actually, and got this piece, Refreshing Empowering Fireball for the intelligence, and so I went with this piece specifically because it has Empowering Fireball. Fireball impacts its deal 7.9% damage, which is nice, but they also deal an additional 12% targets against above 50% health, 12% damage to targets above 50% health. This is really good against big health bosses because you can kind of wane them down, and I'm specifically talking about Typhon because this greatly speeds up that fight, because I'm dealing even more damage, which is really cool. Again, for this piece, I would love an Enchanted Ward piece, and I'll probably get something. I have a Hoplite arm already that would work really well here, but I wanted this weapon perk specifically because I wanted to be able to have the more damage. And while I am a little squishier because I don't have something like Enchanted Ward, I think I can manage that, being especially a light armor person with 1200 armor right now. For the pants, we're using the Hoplite pants. This is actually from the Gorgon raid itself. Enchanted Ward Refreshing is what it comes with. Freedom is the third perk. I would, ideally roll this for something else. I don't think Freedom's that great, but Fire Harnessing here. But personally, I think that it's so expensive to re-roll these again. But in the same case, Freedom works well because my next piece has Freedom, and I don't think I'm going to gain too much from benefiting over this. And this is also in a bunch of different builds. Again, this is actually in my healer build as well. So putting one of those specific things here, this would not be very beneficial to my healer build if I did a DPS fire like perk here. And then for the boots, I'm using Frigid Dawn. This also has Freedom. It comes with Enchanted Ward Elemental Aversion stock on it. Ideally, again, you would put a weapon perk here, and I probably will put a weapon perk here, which will probably be Refreshing Pillar of Fire, so I can lower the cooldown based upon how many targets I hit, and max 2 is what it is. I'd like to put that on the boots here, so that's kind of my goal, is either to roll it on here or find an Enchanted Ward piece with Refreshing Pillar to slot in this place. Now for PvP, you could totally gear up a little differently with some more PvP oriented perks here, but specifically for PvE, I think this is a really good way to get started. And all of these, I just kind of gave you opportunities that you can kind of go to the kiln and get a lot of this stuff without having to really try to go and farm this. Trading Post was a lot of these purchases, and Frigid Dawn you get from Glacial Tarn or from the kiln. So a lot of this stuff you can kind of get from easily obtainable sources. Now I have a second variant of this, and I want to show you that. I'm not going to go too far into it because I don't think it's easily obtainable, and in some ways for me it's not the better DPS option, but it is an option, and this is my medium DPS build. So this is the exact same thing when it comes to Fire Staff, Life Taker, all the stuff for the armor, or for the jewelry rather, but for armor it's different. So this is a medium loadout. You can see I'm at 22.3 for the actual armor weight here, putting myself in a medium, which should lower my damage 15%, right? But the pants that drop from the raid from Broodmother Medusa is the Azoth Conductors. And this says if in a medium equip weight, deal 15% more elemental damage, which which is what you do as a mage. You're doing elemental damage. So it's basically lets you be in a medium build, still doing light damage, which is really cool. Anyway, so the Azoth Conductors, while at the end of the Gorgon raid, I can't say like everyone can get it, because finding a pub group is difficult, if I'm being completely honest. And I've ran so many raids now, trying to help people, that some people just, they just don't want to learn it. They have the wrong gear. They don't want to take the time to gear correctly. And they say they have the best weapons in the game, but then they die instantly because they're not doing strike protection for specific bosses or nature. It's just, it never, sometimes it just never works out. So anyway, let me tell you about the weapons or the armor that I chose for this set. If you do have Azoth Conductors, you want to run a full medium set, which is heads, hands, boots, as well as pants. The pants are medium, and a heavy chest. That will put you at 22.3. That's the best armor that you can get in a medium loadout with medium pants, all medium with a heavy chest. So that's what I would recommend. And then honestly, everything here came from the kiln or from an M2 drop. The top piece, Grave Robber's Hat, you can buy from the kiln. It comes with Enchanted Ward / Conditioning. It got a boo-boo third perk, but I didn't care because I wanted Enchanted Ward and I wanted a 700 piece. This came from the kiln, just from like a regular mutator materia, not even like mutated materia. Azoth Crystal Breastplate you can buy from the kiln as well. However, this one dropped in an M2 at 686 with health, which I was thoroughly happy about. Azoth Crystal Gloves also drop in M2s. This one also dropped in an M2 at 700 with health. I literally like fell out of my pants. How do you fall out of your pants? But I did. I fell out of my pants. Anyway, really good piece here, medium glove. And then for the boots, I actually got these from an M2 as well that had fire harnessing, refreshing Enchanted Ward. Now, what you didn't notice was none of these pieces had a weapon perk on them. So in theory, I'm not getting the empowerment from the meteor shower. I'm not getting the extra damage from the fireball. And I could go find some stuff on the trading post to slot in there. That'd be fine. But these are all pieces I had, or I had materia to buy from to keep Enchanted Ward. So this set itself, while I'm only doing, here, let me hide my camera. This puts me at 1674 physical, 1600 elemental. I have all 5 pieces with Enchanted Ward, so I feel very confident staying alive inside the fight just because of having Enchanted Ward, which is what your like AI people in PvE, that's what all of them use, are lighter heavies. Just to contrast that, in a light loadout, that light build I showed earlier, it's 1266 and 1151. Because Featherweight, how good it is, you're able to get a lot more like armor out of it. So this isn't too far off from the medium set, but this is there. Whenever you start stacking fortifies is when you really start noticing like all that extra armor that you got from a medium loadout, and that's what's beneficial of it. However, if I need to do max DPS, I'm in that light loadout because I have the weapon perks on the armor. Now, I want to talk about alternative weapons before we go into attributes and skills, okay? So for that fire staff, I'm going to show you the few that I have here. Specifically, this one is actually the volcanic staff. This is named, and on this one specifically, I got refreshing move and pillar of fire. And I really think that refreshing move, if I could have rolled it on the hoplite staff, I might have done it over the attunement, because hitting them with light attacks and heavy attacks, getting the skills to come back up quicker is really cool. And the only cooldown reduction on the fire staff is to actually hit with a heavy attack to knock 10% of it off. But I also think you're losing DPS constantly just heavy attacking. So I would like to have refreshing move. This is actually the one that I started with when I actually, like, this is what I had in my like vault from what I just got from drops. This is what I started with. But then here's some other ones. Here's one that is refreshing move, empowering meteor shower. This is 30% empowerment that you could get. I feel like this is really good on the weapon too, honestly, getting empowering meteor shower. Really cool here. Refreshing pillar of fire, reduced cooldown of pillar of fire by 15% per hit. Not that crazy. I don't think that's as good as maybe empowering meteor shower or even fireball. And you see I have another one here with empowering meteor shower, keen and keenly empowered. So if you get a crit, which is a higher crit chance here, you get 5% empower just on this, or 10% empower for 5 seconds, and you're getting the empower from here. This one's kind of nutty as well. And then this is the one that I spent like 15k on off of the trading post. It came with Keen, Flame Attunement, and Life Stealing. I liked having the double Life Stealing. I felt very confident in my abilities to stay alive, but I wanted Flame Attunement and Keen, which is what I really wanted to drive on. But not having refreshing move, this is where it taught me that I didn't have to have it, but I still missed it. And you can see that in all of these, I have an opal because I think that being able to dodge and have it is there. If you're someone who's always going to be full health, you know, a diamond could be great. If your stuff is always on cooldowns, you could totally do, I think it's a moonstone for 20%. Also a really good option, but you have to make sure you're always spamming your abilities. Also for your offhand, instead of using Life Taker, there is totally the build where you can run Fire Staff Abyss. 100%, this is a great option. I think Fire Staff and Abyss sync really, really well. The only problem I have is the Abyss perk here, which is deal 15% more damage while mana is below 100. If you're running Intelligence, every time you get a critical hit, you get 10% mana back. So it's really easy to be under the 100% mana and then immediately get it back. So that 15% doesn't really show itself very often, but it is an option sometimes. And if you're trying to figure out what perk to add on this, I haven't upgraded it yet, but Crippling Reap is crazy good for PvP as well as PvE. However, Gravwell is also really nice. Insatiable Gravwell, I think is what it is. Really nice as well. And you can totally play with Blunderbuss. I actually got this one from the raid. Disdained Infliction, as well as Life Stealing and Venturing Claw Shot. Oh, this is like a beautiful blunderbuss. I love this so much. And it's so good. You could totally run a blunderbuss build, and then kind of enjoy that, you know, convert the damage around, etc. Really, really nice. I think that it's a really cool play style with Blunderbuss. I have a whole DPS build with Blunderbuss coming as well. It's actually this set, one of these sets right here. So you should totally check that out. Subscribe for more. And then there's also the argument to be made with Ice Gauntlet. I think that Ice Gauntlet is one of those that can be very useful. And I'll go ahead and go show you the artifact one. It's called the Cold Cuts, not Cold Cuts, the Deep Freeze. I haven't upgraded this because I'm not usually a huge fan of the Ice Gauntlet, but frozen, rooted, or chilled enemies take 15% additional damage. If you throw down your turret and let them get shot, you know, you're dealing an extra 15% damage essentially. This can be really good. However, the 30% Ren from Life Taker and the dots feel very powerful to me. And I think that that's what I would rather lean on rather than this. However, I might update this guide once I play with this a little more. And then there's also the people who are going to ask me, well, what about Inferno, right? Who cares about the scaling with strength? I don't think that this plays very well as a strength piece, but if you're a strength player and you want to be able to use something that's ranged and do some decent DPS, this can be an option. Just don't expect your mana to be able to help you, and don't rely on your dots because they won't do a lot of damage. But I do think doing it close within 15, like more damage being close within 15 meters is a benefit. That being said, you can't add Disdained Infliction onto this, so you're missing out on a lot of dot damage if you did use this with an intelligence build. But if you're a flamethrower build, I think this could be a really good option. All right, attributes. So this is what I'm running right now. 500 intelligence, the rest in con. Simple. I don't even have my con food up, but you can see that even with all the points that I do have, I could totally be in the 130s, almost 140s for con just by popping a food, right? The thing here is, and I have tested, and I will go ahead and tell you, if I dropped intelligence down to 450, right, or even took away some of this constitution, and I put it up to like 50 strength, right? Yes, I will be doing more damage. There is no doubt about that. Not even a question will I be doing more damage. That is so true. That being said, your dot damage also goes down because your dot damage scales off of intelligence. And because this build is synergized around dot damage, the amount that you actually increase off of this compared to your empowers is not as much because you're using abilities more often than you are actually light or heavy attacking. I think that while you might do more damage if you're just doing lights or heavies, the ability damage as well as actually getting stuff off with dots, you're going to feel better off in intelligence. Now, totally roast me in the comments, tell me I'm wrong. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You could totally take 25 dex for more crit chance. You could totally take 50 dex for more damage while at full health, sync this with a diamond and do a whole bunch more. I mean, there's a lot of things here you can do. You can totally take 25 focus to get more ability cooldown. And I've done this one to get, you know, faster cooldowns, or even go 50 to get more healing. There's so many things you can do around here, but having that health has felt really powerful. So you can see right here with my 90 con, I'm at 12,330. If I pop my 48 con food, I'm now at 138 con. Now I could take those 38 points and put them somewhere else. I could put 20 in one place. I could go 498 intelligence and go 20 somewhere else. So I could get, you know, more light attack damage and then more crit chance. I think that's a really good trade-off, or more crit chance and more focus, and probably still be in the 14,000s for Constitution. That being said, this just feels really nice when it comes to dot damage. All right, for weapon mastery, let's go over the fire staff first. Now, this is a pretty solid layout, and depending on if you're PvPing or PvEing, this will change your perks. But for PvE, this is doing against AI stuff. This is what I would run. I would be running Pillar, I would be running Meteor Shower, and I'd be running Fireball. Why? Pillar is going to be a huge amount of damage. I mean, it's massive, good cooldowns, really nice. I really like Pillar Fire. It's so cool. Meteor Shower, getting that empowerment back from using Empowering Meteor Shower is really nice, but also it applies disease from Immolation. So I think this is really cool, being able to get more disease off and mutations, which is really nice. This is very beneficial. Even in PvP, this can be beneficial, especially in OPR or War. I think that Meteor Shower has a really good place. And then Fireball, there's not much to say about Fireball. The amount of DPS that you can get from this is absurd. And then also running like the better Fireball perk, again, it just completely stacks. And then Rune of Helios going into this gets another 20% damage buff to be able to get. It's just all the amount of damage that you get out of Fire Mage is crazy. That being said, there is a part of this build where you could drop Meteor Shower in total. You could go, you know, into Flamethrower if you want to be a little closer with Inferno, with the Artifact Inferno. You could totally go with Burnout if you're in PvP, so you can actually get in and out of combat and get some Fortify if you have Fortifying Burnout. There's a really good option with that. And then also with Incinerate, not even a question. There's a lot of damage that you can do from this. You can push them away. You can really help. It does a cleanse. It does weakens. There's a lot of really good benefits in this. Gain stack of Empower. You can get 15% Empower just from everyone that you hit. And if you're running a medium build, maybe you go more with this tree over here. Maybe with running Fireball. I think there's a lot of choices here, but this is where I've camped because I've felt the most powerful damage-wise. And being able to stay alive is running this setup here. And I can go through each perk and kind of explain it, but you can kind of copy and paste this right now. I'll tell you that we're not going spell focus to restore mana because you're already getting it on critical hits. And I'm also not getting the mana from Arson's Advantage on the Pillar of Fire. I'm pulling that one because, again, you're getting 15% of your max mana per hit, which is great. You're getting all your mana back, but you're also getting it from heavy attacks or from light attacks. So if you feel like you're but you're also getting it from crits. So if you feel like you're running out of mana, you might want to pull one and put it over here in Pillar so you can get a lot of your mana back. So on the Pyromania tree, we're actually doing all attacks to deal 10% increased base damage against targets with burn or smolder. Everyone's going to be burning and smoldering, just FYI. And then also Let It Burn. Whenever Fire Staff Smolder deals damage, you can gain 10% Fortify for 2 seconds. Also really, really cool because you're able to basically just get a free 10% bump in armor that just stays because you're almost always going to have a smolder effect hitting someone, which is really cool. This is the one that you can kind of take off and put somewhere else if you want. And then you can also adjust based upon what you need here. For Void Gauntlet, this one's going to look kind of crazy, but because I have all 6 skills, but there is a method to this madness because I use all of the skills depending on what it is. And I hate respeccing, especially mid-raid or something for my skills. So for this build specifically, I'll hide. I will use Baleful Tether, I'll use Scream, and I'll use Oblivion. There's Empowerment here, there's Disease and Root here, and then Baleful Tether is even more empowering, but as well as weakening. If I don't need to actually root anyone, I'll change this out for Essence Rupture so that I can hit it. Not only am I benefiting the team and giving them lifesteal, but I'm benefiting myself and getting a lifesteal, which can be really beneficial. So this is what I use a lot in the raid until it's Typhon, where I use Petrifying Scream. Again, go ahead and screenshot this to hold on to it, but essentially all you're losing is Forsaken Pact, which is plus 10% damage while above 15% mana. I'm not necessarily real focused on this one. This is really good to have, but in favor of some of the other stuff, I've dropped it. Empowering Proximity, gaining power when casting abilities. I'm not necessarily too much, benefited by this. I am if I switch over and pop it, and you can kind of reuse some of the other stuff, but in benefit of the other stuff, I've dropped it. And Harvest Essence Drain, I don't really care about that. So I grabbed Orb, Baleful, and then Essence to be able to get all 3 abilities over here. If I was to redo this again and not take all of these perks, I would probably just not take anything on the Decay tree and only run Annihilation tree, or I would drop Void Blade, take these 3 perks, and still take these 3 without having the Annihilation. I think that's kind of important. Or taking whatever perks I had to be able to get Void Caller to pop. All that being said, this is just how I choose to do this tree. I don't think this is the perfect setup, but this allows me to, regardless of whether I'm healing or I'm on DPS, I can choose the perks that benefit me the most. Baleful, I can get some lifesteal. I can be able to throw Orb if I want, even though I almost never use Orb, but there are times when I do. But Oblivion's almost always in my set, and Scream is almost always in my set. So we're at beds, and I'm just going to kind of show off some of this damage. I was just running with like a tank guy running around in here a second ago, and it was kind of nuts. So we're just going to go ahead and grab a couple of these scorpions so I can show you the damage that it is. So here's one right here. And what you'll see is all of the stack damage that just happens, all of those ticks that occur. Now, I'm just going to shoot one time, and I want you to see how much tick damage just occurs from one shot. Look at this. That was just one shot, one light attack. The more I light attack, I just stack. Look, that was 4 light attacks on that one thing. Look. Tell me that's not ridiculous. I just killed it off of that. And that's how powerful this build is. Some of you are probably freaking out like, why didn't you skin those guys? Brother, I'm trying to make a YouTube video. All right, here's a big one. Here we go. Let's go and spam some cooldowns. Let's get Powering Meteor Shower out. Let's get some dodges so I can do even more damage. I'm light attacking for over 4,000 damage right now. I did almost 6k on that pillar, or the 7k on that pillar. Oh, 3,500, 4,000 with a light attack. And you can see that it's really easy to melt because of the way this build works. You can kind of melt groups. Like here's a whole group of them. Here, I'll go ahead and pull that one. Let's do this one. Let's go ahead and put down Meteor. Boom. Put down all of this. Already melted the little guys. Boom. Let's go ahead and dodge. Let's get us a heavy attack to get our cooldowns back. Put down a Meteor. And just watch them burn. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and show you some gameplay from where I'm actually inside the Gorgon raid using these builds, both the medium as well as the light. I'll put a little kind of notification at the bottom which build I'm using, but I am still using everything that you're seeing. I haven't even switched over. Here's Baleful Tether, heavy attack. Let's see, light attacks. You know, I haven't even hit the empowers yet off of Meteor. Light attacking. It's kind of crazy. I just saw 4,400 light attack. It's crazy. Anyway, so what we'll do is I'll go ahead and show you some footage from the Gorgon raid, and then we'll come back and wrap this up. So to close it, I think that this is probably the easiest build that you can get into. Life Taker's pretty easy to get into. Finding a life staff that just has one of the weapon perks that you want is also really beneficial. If you can get one and roll Disdained Infliction onto it with the actual craft mod, huge, which you can do. You can just get the mod and roll it onto a weapon. Really nice way to just kind of get you a really top tier, best in slot weapon out the gate if you can do that. However, all of the things I've shown you kind of different opportunities and options for. What you do need to know is, regardless of any of that, make sure you're having fun as a DPS, and as a fire staff, sit back and just burn them, enjoy that. You will pull a lot of aggro. Let me go ahead and say that. And if you pull a lot of aggro away from your tank or from people like that, just go run through the mobs, through the tank, like run past the tank, and he will generally grab that threat back from the enemy. So just run back through the tank and that'll happen. Anyway, thanks guys. I hope you appreciate this video. If you do, like it, subscribe, do all that crazy YouTube stuff. Really appreciate you. Check out one of these two videos. The next build that's coming up is actually a blunderbuss build. Then I'm doing a new tanking video. Then I'm going to do my single class options that I think are the best options for mutations, both a tank, a healer, as well as a damage player, the easiest ways to play. And then we're going to do a Gorgon video. There's a lot of content planned on this channel moving forward. Oh, and if you're wanting to stream or create content or anything like that, check out my main channel. That's where I do most of my stuff. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Bye-bye.